When we're talking about rotating herbicide-tolerant systems, what are the tools in managing that resistance? How concerned should farmers be about, weeds developing herbicide resistance?
Well, especially in Manitoba, we have quite a history of herbicide resistance. But the key thing is, if at all possible, prevent it. Because it's easier to prevent and deal with a problem in advance than it is to deal with a problem once you have it. So for a grower that's looking at trying to manage to prevent herbicide resistance, you really have 4 options. You want to rotate your herbicides, you want to rotate your crops, and you want to prevent the resistant weed from moving into your land through seed or from nearby sources. And you want to keep very good field records so you can go back over time and make the right decisions going forward, knowing what you've done in the past. But the rotation of crops and herbicides is key, because that's what delays or prevents the resistance from appearing and makes your management that much easier.
Now, are there other benefits beyond weed resistance management, as far as perhaps disease resistance management as well?
Certainly, as rotations get tighter, and canola is a good example of that, you have to control the volunteers, because canola will volunteer for 2 years after it's been produced as a crop. If you don't control the volunteers, not only is your rotation getting tighter with less space between those canola crops, but you have volunteers in all the intervening years. So if disease becomes an issue or has great potential to spread or develop new strains, and blackleg is a good example of that, there is no break in the canola rotation, because you go from canola to another crop where the volunteers of the previous canola crop are, maybe back to canola or a third crop, but you always have canola or volunteer canolas in the field, and that allows the disease a chance to reproduce and spread.
All right, let's talk specifically about kochia. There are certainly several different weed species in the prairies that have exhibited some sort of herbicide resistance. Kochia being the latest and the first to glyphosate. How big of an issue is this, and what are some things farmers can do now to possibly delay this or prevent it in their fields?
When asked about kochia, what I'll tell growers is, at the moment, we know of 8 sites that have confirmed glyphosate resistance. So what's important is to get on top of that problem before that number becomes larger. And you can do that through rotation, you can do that through herbicide top-ups. And one of the key tools in dealing with resistance, both to manage it and prevent it, is top up your glyphosate with another active that controls the weed in question, this time kochia. So BASF has 2 actives they brought to the market in the last couple of years here in Western Canada. One is Heat in the pre-seed and post-harvest market segment and the summer follow segment, and Distinct. Both of those products will combine with glyphosate to give you a broad spectrum control, and the BASF component, the Heat or the Distinct, will pick up the kochia. So in a situation where a grower has resistance, those products will control the resistant kochia. And in a situation where there is no resistance, then you have 2 modes of action working on kochia to A, reduce the number of kochia and keep your weed pressure low, but also to prevent resistance from appearing on your farm. In Western Canada, we have a number of different weed resistance issues, and it's too easy to become complacent about some of the major ones, like Group 1 resistant wild oats. Some of the surveys will say that 40% of the fields in Manitoba have some presence of Group 1 resistance. That's a serious issue, because if you don't manage for it, how do you grow certain crops like flax, where there is no other grass control option other than Group 1s? So keeping overall weed numbers down, particularly things like wild oats, lets you grow the crops you want to grow when the market conditions make sense for it, so that you can be profitable on your farm. So you need to be rotating for a number of weeds, and wild oats, Group 1 resistant wild oats, are a key weed that you should target when you manage your fields. Herbicide tolerant canola is a great way to go in and manage that in 1 year of your rotation.